All right, hey, what's up, guys? It's Tim with the Juice and Gym and Juice Facility Programming. I want to go over the October coaching development ongoing training. Again, this would be a little different than, say, an instructor training program to get on the team. This should be geared as more closely to professional development that your staff needs to stay ahead of the curve of the market and make sure they stay strong as a team and can effectively communicate the programming to your members and have time to really dive deep and on some critical thinking for coaching. This should be a little different than staff development, which again would focus on sales, things like that. Maybe phone scripts, following up with members, etc. That type of thing, which is important. Zen Planner, all of that, very important for the health of the business. But hopefully, the time that you're saving, having facility programming done for you, is allowing you to spend more time on that part with them already. If you're stuck on those parts, you're not sure where to go, send me a message. I have great contacts and friends that can help you in your gyms do that, but that's beside the point. What I want to dive in is the other time that you're saving by having the programming done for you is going to be put back in, not on time for vacation, maybe when we get there, but it's going to be put back into coaching development, right? So I put together the guide for you for the month. We're starting off, there's always going to be a section on either leadership or interaction. This one is definitely more on the leadership side. Not as much, on interaction, it will trickle down, but I think it's going to be focused on leadership. You see, it's Jocko, one of our favorites. We're talking about extreme ownership. If your team has not read this as a group, I'm sure a lot of coaches have read it. I highly recommend to read this as a group. Also, Good to Great should be an absolute one to read as a group. Other ones might be better for gym owners or facility owners or a GM, maybe like Pumpkin Plan, etc. Might be a little better just for the owner to read. But this is one I highly recommend. The video is short, should be able to get everyone there. The idea here is that Jocko basically says that when a team takes ownership of its problems, the problems get solved, right? And how many times do we have it where we're not sure whose responsibility is what? Things get lost in the middle. We get unsure. We start blaming. We don't know how to explain the programming. So what do? We blame good old Tim. And I had never hurt nobody. I'm kidding there. But you get the idea, is that we want to take it as they are our front line of defense, and the coaches to make sure that our members who we're here to serve get the best possible training every day. And anytime they don't know something or unsure, etc., it's got to be on them and the team to solve it. Do we do this perfectly all the time? No, we're human, but we want to be moving forward towards this as much as we can. I'm a big believer in that. And the prompts there are, what aspects in your gym does your team already work really well together on? And then think critically what areas get overlooked, and then really think openly. Is it cleanliness? Is it knowing the names of each other? Is it staying before and after every class? Is it that you say, hey, if you can't do the movements right, we're going to scale you, but then you're like, you can get through it, or she can tough it out. And now we're not really delivering what we said initially we were going to do. Or other coaches let it slide, right? Are we actually cheering every person on to the very end of every class? Or do you kind of sit back and it's okay to lay down for a while? Hey, you had a hard workout. I'm not here to espouse what values you should have in your gym. That's for you to know and understand. But I like to create some space to think critically about that as a group. Number 2, here is going to be assessment and warm-up protocols. This month we're going over flow mobility. This is something I'm a big fan of. Obviously, most of the things on here I'll be a big fan of. Sometimes there will be things that maybe I don't like, and I want to talk about them too. It's a little easier to go towards the good stuff though. Having the warm-ups done for you that we do in the programming is a really good thing. But like I always mention, the warm-ups especially will probably have the most variations of anything we do, because the group you have at 5 p.m. varies from the group you have at 5 a.m., varies from the fire breathers, varies from your on-ramp, etc. Each of those warm-ups, you get the general ideas, the movement patterns we want to do. They will have different effects as far as like the tempo, the beat of it, how high you need to get them before we start rocking the class, or how much we have to kind of settle them down of their nerves depending on their ability and their perception of the workout. So With that said, we put a couple different flow mobility pieces here. These can be very fun and effective warm-ups with the right training after and the right training group. So I put a full body flow up there, a hip mobility flow up there. They're not ones I made. I found them online, obviously, so you'll see that. You'll get the idea if you haven't seen these before, or if your coaching staff hasn't. They can be very good, but I want you to, again, think critically here of what types of training might flow mobility be appropriate for. Who might it serve best, and who may it actually be like, hey, I saw a great flow mobility from Max Shanks online, and it was awesome, and I love he did his shoulder flow, and I want to be able to put it in class. You're like, this is on-ramp. This is maybe not the idea. We're trying to master basics before we get to virtuosity, right? Same idea here. So think critically, who is it good, when is it appropriate there, and then maybe you can practice some on your own or have people present some if they can do it. I think that's really good. Movement and exercise selection. This month, single leg glute bridge. We're going with some functional bodybuilding and unilateral strength, things that are not in our 9 fundamental movements, not even close, right? Actually gearing towards unfunctional in a sense. That's okay. We can do these to build up the pieces we need to get into function, right? Just starting with the major movers. For some people that can work, other people need smaller parts. Some people spending too much time on major movers, meaning the full compound movement, can develop imbalances. That's how they get through the hole on their squat, is they have their hip wiggle, right? They have their parts, and that's okay. We're going for max front squat singles at the end of testing. That's fine. But again, to balance out intensity, what do we always need is the other side of the coin, right? We're going to need correctives, high time under tension, unilateral work, etc., getting people good on this. It also works because right now we're on deload, and we're starting off the cycle. Again, it's always with high time under tension, getting the pieces accumulated of their training, and then we push it out to the functional high output pieces. But we don't start there, and we don't live there solely, right? If it's increased work capacity across broad time and modal domains, part of those domains do necessarily include correctives, bodybuilding, etc. And part of them do necessarily include Fran, right? And Fran's one of our testers coming up this month, because we are going from lactic power to lactic endurance. For many people, that'll be in that range there. So it'll be a really good test as we add more complexity through our unsustainable efforts. So there's that. I want you guys to start with these movements for the single leg glute bridge and single leg, we can probably do single leg hip thrust also, starting with isometric and body weight holds, and going to eccentrics with body weight, and then into concentric focused contractions, and following that same pattern into banded, and then into loaded barbell, or if you want to hold a kettlebell or something crazy, or hips, or however you want to do it, there for the single leg glute bridge would be a normal pattern of progression on there, right? Isometric, eccentric, concentric. I don't know if there's a dynamic contraction. I guess it would be a single leg kip up off the ground would be the next progression of that, but probably don't need to do that. Maybe, it's cool, have fun. And then finally, we are taking out, last month we talked about the strength speed continuum. This month we're talking about the strength endurance continuum. This is now, let's say we had our reps, how strong can we be, how fast, strong and fast can we be, fast and strong, and then how fast can we be. Now it's how long can we keep up that strength. What are the rep ranges if we're going heavy in metabolic conditioning, which is different than developing strength, right? That would be something we're doing for weight training exercises. If we're doing it for endurance, whether it's in an EMOM setting, whether we're doing it for repetitive EMOM, a set of 5 deadlift, next minute a set of, air bike or something, or in conditioning like Diane, 21-15-9 deadlift, handstand push-up, what are the right loading parameters we need for people based on their maximum output, based on the rep ranges they can do, right? At some percentage, deadlift could be a really low, we're talking 225, could be under 33% of their max. That could be a hip powered speed movement for people, right? If the rep ranges are appropriate and the loading's appropriate and someone's deadlifting 1,000 pounds, yeah, absolutely, right? It's just all relative to the individual of that. So it also could be, this could be, high strength work and it's not enduring at all because that's close to their max. So In the video, I break down the rep ranges that we use to help decide these in conditioning. What I want to be able to look at is in these workouts, talk about them with different tailoring options for your members in the conditioning pieces based on our fitness, performance, and sport goal-based tiers. You can kind of get, maybe you can use some members as avatars. Oh, this is Jeff. He's here to get jacked. He's never lifted a day in his life. What does Fran look like for him? What does Filthy 50 look like this individual? How much of their max are they doing? Same thing, King Kong. What type of workout is that? Where does it fit on the spectrum? And how would we adjust this for people? Or is there an area and maybe it's not even appropriate for them to be doing, or they're not even going to get the stimulus out of it? Like King Kong, really, what's that, 450 dead or something like that. At the time, it was 2 muscle-ups. Ooh, if you could do 450 dead and 2 muscle-ups. Wow, watch out. What's the Neil deGrasse meme? We got a badass over here. I mean, 450 dead's impressive. Was impressive. That's 2009. No one could do this, right? It's like the record was like 8 minutes. It's come a long way. So look at these, see how they've got in from the strength components and now enduring what the rep ranges can hold on this and how we'd have to adjust those for people. I think you've got yourselves a really good coaching development hour or 90 minutes, maybe longer. Last thing I'll say, you really do this 2 ways. You can talk about these weekly, 1 part every week, so I put 4 parts up there, or you can do it as a bigger session. That's just up to you and how you want to do it. So that's all I got. I hope you enjoy this, and I hope this is giving a lot of value to your coaching staff and helping free up more time for you. That doesn't take you the 5 or 10 hours it takes me to put this together. So enjoy, and we'll talk next month. Thanks.